Welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Guild podcast, a podcast all about the experiences and memories that playing games with friends and families can create. On this episode, we discuss games that we wish had a digital edition. We know most of us have been cooped up at home playing games on our computers for the better part of a year or longer now, and we can't wait to get back to playing games in person with our friends, but there is something to be said for being able to quickly jump into a game online on your computer with friends or all by yourself. So guys, games that we wish had a digital version, or let's talk about even the digital versions of games out there that are already out there that we like. I don't know about you guys, but there's some really good digital board games out there.
I'll have to agree. Yeah, Tabletop Simulator has been a godsend this past year, right?
So I think that's a good question. That's a good question right here. Tabletop Simulator has been huge this year. But when we talk about digital versions of games, do we want to differentiate at all between games that have been modded and then games that have been official put out digital versions of games? And then how do we compare those two things? Because there's a lot of really good ones that have just been modded, but then there are also full on digital versions. So the digital app for Wingspan, there's a full on digital version of that.
Right. The general preference seems to be for some kind of rule support. So the game helps you play.
Right.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, for me it's something that's backed by the publisher itself. So whether that's a Tabletop Simulator that they added the game themselves, the DLC, whether it's free or not, doesn't matter. Or I know Board Game Arena, a lot of those are officially supported by the publishers, or a app or whatever for the board game release through Steam or whatnot, which is going to be the harder route for any of them. So I do feel that generally speaking, a board game that comes out for Steam or Apple is a lot better than the mods or DLCs for Tabletop Simulator or Board Game Arena. Some of them have been horrible, but in general, I think there's a lot to be said for a good user interface.
So you think when it's done right, that version is usually a better version than the one that you would get on Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, or even Board Game Arena, because Board Game Arena just applies the rules to the game. Mm-hmm. Where if you get the digital adaptation of them, a lot of times they'll have a special interface for the game, and they'll have special animations for the game, and all sorts of fun stuff.
Well, so maybe that's even a better place to start real quick before we jump into the games we wish had digital versions. What are the games that you think have been done really, really well? So we can just praise some of the ones out there that we have played that we think are really well done and probably set the bar for digital adaptations for board games.
Well, I have one that may mean I might not play the physical copy I have anymore once the full campaign is out.
Ooh.
So Gloomhaven Digital, really well done. Avoids all the, setup time and having to find all the pieces and kind of figure out how to store them. Does all the, enemy management for you. And it's easy to get somebody else to join and play with you. So it's really well done. It's still in beta mode, so they have tons of content for just the beta mode, but even though they haven't unlocked the main campaign, they're still, I probably put 30 hours in it, and I'm nowhere near finishing it.
It's just amazing how long they've been in beta. Are they
yeah,
ever not going to be in beta? At what point you'll be a decade later, we're not beta. We went to alpha instead. That's backwards.
Well, they just keep adding more beta content.
So I have not played Gloomhaven with the physical game, and I've not played Gloomhaven yet for the digital game, but so you're saying the big thing that it kind of takes care of is the noodly setup time and storage of the game. What else does it do maybe that you feel is better in the digital version than the physical version?
Well, it helps to know the rules and have played the board game before, but really it's you can't misunderstand a rule and do things wrong. It won't let you do it wrong. The only thing is, if you know the rules, if you read the rules, it'll help you understand, okay, why it didn't allow you to do this, or why did it allow you to do this. But yeah, so that's a big bonus. It's a big chunk of rules to learn in the game, and yeah, it just saves a lot of that learning time.
I was gonna say that the first thing that you said with the whole setup time, taking care of that is the one thing I know that when the first time I get together with you guys again and we're in person, we're gonna play a game, I already know how spoiled we are because when it comes to the setup time, it's just gonna be so much more work than it is right now when you do it on Tabletop Simulator. At the end of the game, James, at your house, am I going to be allowed to just flip the table?
I will kill you.
I allow it.
All right, Dan says it's okay. Dan says it's okay.
Well, it depends on what game's on the table, I guess. Yeah,
it does depend on what game's on there, but either way.
Yeah, so Twilight Imperium 4, I can just flip the table. Jay.
It gets into that whole thing is being with people, does that matter? Does physically being with a person actually matter? So if the answer is most of the time no, then digital board games are an outlet to be able to do that sort of thing without the people being there. But for me, you already know I have a hard time with Tabletop Simulator. So I like the analog experience of playing a board game, being able to touch the pieces, be able to see someone, be able to look into their eyes and tell when they're shenanigans and other stuff. So for me, all these digital adaptations and stuff are nothing compared to the actual board game, even with the setup.
Okay.
Yeah, for the most part, it's a stopgap until we can see each other again.
And on the same breath, I will say Star Realms app has eliminated Star Realms from playing the physical version. But I play so much Star Realms that really most of the time it's not worth teaching someone. So it's fun to just jump on the app and play somebody I don't know. But that's a very short card game, deck builder. Star Realms will take about 15 minutes to play at most.
Okay.
With people that are really good at playing it. A lot of times it's like 10-minute matches.
Gotcha. So James has got one that's kind of, it's good enough. It's replaced his physical game.
Yeah, I actually got rid of it.
Oh, you actually got rid of it?
Yeah, I actually got rid of it because I'm like, there's absolutely no point in me having Star Realms at all.
Gotcha.
I got it from him.
Okay, I was gonna say you raised your hand, Nathan, and I was like, Nathan, you didn't actually get rid of Gloomhaven though, right? Because that was a big investment, I'm sure.
No, I won't get rid of Gloomhaven. I mean, it was a little bit of hyperbole. I still will play the physical game. But if it's just me, it's a game that you can play solo.
Right, and there's no reason you're going to get the whole game out for solo. You just play the digital.
Right.
That makes sense. Dan, what about you? Has there been a digital one that has replaced a physical copy for you, or just one that you think's amazing?
There hasn't been a digital board game that has replaced the physical copy for me. One thing that sort of cropped into my head while we were talking here is that ease of access that Nathan mentioned a little while ago. The fact that there's no setup or teardown time is great, but there's also games that will give you a demo or teach you how to play modes or a tutorial. And that's considerably better than like, oh, here's a PDF with a rule book. Read it before you play this game.
We're starting to trample on like some of our reasons why we want these digital games.
I think there's a decent amount of overlap here. I think once we dig into the games that we want to see digital implementations of, we will uncover the reasons why digital games should exist and can contribute to the gaming lexicon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with Dan. I don't have one that I have that's like going to replace a game for me. But again, I've got a much smaller library to choose from than you guys do. So, but there have definitely been some that have really blown my mind and I think are really, really well done. And one of them I'm just going to throw out there that it's probably the one that I've played the most at this point is the Blood Rage digital adaptation, which I think is really, really well done now, which is not the case when it was released, but it has continued to have upkeep, and they've done a really good job of putting out regular updates to the game, and I think it's fantastic. It hits a lot of the notes for me with digital games. I think it has a decent soundtrack to it, which I find really adds to the immersion for a digital adaptation. If they've got a decent soundtrack going in the background, helps me to lose myself in the game. And then I feel like it did a pretty decent job walking you through the game. Again, I think a digital adaptation that has a really good tutorial is going to sell itself. If it doesn't have a good tutorial, they lose me fast. They lose me really, really fast if it doesn't have a good tutorial. Because I feel like with the digital adaptation, unlike a physical board game, I shouldn't have to read a rule book because there's no rule book. Don't give me something digital like that and then say, well, here's a PDF now to read the rules. No, just have a video walk me through your game. Tutorial-wise, one that I just played through the other day that was amazing was the tutorial for, I thought was for Smash Up the other day. The game didn't even it didn't ask you, did you want to play a tutorial? It just, the first time you click on it, it drops you into it, and it's really well done. So Blood Rage, though, one that I've really enjoyed playing the digital version of, and still have yet to actually play the physical version. So one day I will, and I'm sure I'm going to absolutely love that too. But yeah, so those are some good ones. But yeah, so I mean, what else do you guys think? What does make a good digital version? And yeah,
I think you hit upon a point there that is with a lot with video games. For the majority of video games, people don't like complex things. They like complex narratives, complex decisions, but not complex gameplay. So when a video gamer goes into it, they want to just be able to jump in. It's going to be the same translation with board games that are made into video games for the most part. When I sit down and play a video game, whether it be a board game or a video game, I expect to be able to be playing that game immediately. A short tutorial or something. So that gets into the issue as, do super complex board games have a place as a digital app? An example of one that didn't do, I don't think did as well as it could have, but also I don't think is good as a digital version, is Eclipse, the board game. There is a lot to understand in Eclipse. It is a Euro in space. There's a lot to do in Eclipse that you need to know the rules for. So when I played Eclipse, the digital version, it wasn't very fun because the people I was playing against obviously never played the physical game. So they weren't aware of certain things that you could do. And it's just, can you translate a 40 plus page rule book, small font, into a game experience that you can just jump into?
That's a good question. I mean, most of the ones that I've played so far, again, not having played a lot of them in the physical form, I would assume don't have super large rule books.
I was going to say that's true. Most of the video games that I play as board games have very small rule books.
Okay.
Or you do the rule book over time, sort of thing, like Charterstone, where you actually only have a couple rules and then you just sort of go off the deep end as you play like 10 games. You only have certain rules for the first game, add a couple rules as you go. Star Realms, super easy. What's that?
Gloomhaven sort of takes that same thing.
Yeah, Gloomhaven, in essence, actually, no matter, the book is large for the rule book, but actually you only need like a page to understand to start Gloomhaven, even in the physical version. So it makes it a really good adaptation digitally because the basic that you need to know is there, and then it can say like, this is what poison is. Okay, great. This is what this happens, and then you're fine.
So you're saying that Gloomhaven, even the physical version, slow rolls out the rules as you play, or
no, it doesn't, but the idea of what you need for the rules isn't as big as the rule book. And Gloomhaven is written in a way that is intuitive, so even if you didn't read the rule book, if you think that something should work away, generally it is the way it works in the Gloomhaven rule book. And there's not a whole lot you're looking up, like a scenario you're only doing, like you're doing something constantly all the time that is about the same thing, and most of the rules is offloaded into the card that you're using and the choices you do. So getting the basics of Gloomhaven isn't that bad.
And 90% of the rule books is background maintenance of what happens between a game, how do you level up and all that, and how do the enemies move. And, in a digital game, that's all done for you.
Yeah, so, so that's all eliminated out of there, and you don't need to worry about that. So Gloomhaven, an example of, the physical one's not that hard, so it's not that bad getting into a digital one. But if you get into, like, slightly more complex, like Steam Rails to Riches, that one's getting a little more into that area, and I don't think the tutorial really could teach the game in the short length of time that it had, video game wise. So I think the farther you get out, the more complex game, that adaptations don't really work very well.
So with some of that in mind, some of what we know, it seems to be making good digital versions, some of the things that are lacking that make it hard for it to become a digital version. We'll go maybe do a round robin. What is a game that you wish had a digital version?
I'll start because I like talking. So my game, I actually love this game. I never got a copy of it. Nathan actually got a copy of it, and he got the copy with my favorite cover because there's multiple covers to this one, and that is Abyss. And the cover he got for the Abyss, I think, is the teal and purple mermaid, whatever. It's the best looking cover. I think the other one's a warrior and a farmer, so meh. But it's not that complicated of a board game. It's mainly like a bidding style game where you're collecting different sets and doing different things with them. And the game comes with pearls. not real pearls, but little plastic pearls. And that is actually the worst portion of the game because it comes with these little beads and it has this little dish and you have to transfer the beads to the dish and stuff. And if you drop them, they go flying because it's a ball. So that is actually an example of a component fail, but aesthetically it looks awesome. The game is awesome. If you ever see it, definitely get it. Super easy to teach. Just a lot of fun. There's a lot of depth and a lot of strategy to the game. I think it would be perfect for a digital adaptation because the overall rules to get you into the game aren't that much. You could teach the game in like 10 minutes flat, and you could probably translate that into a couple minute tutorial visually through a video game. So I think Abyss is probably an extremely good example of a game that should be made into a digital version.
All right. Well, I mean that one, it sounds good to me, and again, it sounds like one of the reasons is, one, you think it's already a great game. Two, easy to teach.
It is a amazing game. Not great, dear sir.
Oh, amazing. It's amazing.
Yes. You forgot the amazing
It's
part.
amazing.
Yes.
So we sort of already covered this, but I'll mention the game just because it's another example. So one of my picks was actually the game Dinosaur Island. You guys all are vaguely aware of this because we played it once or twice on Tabletop Simulator, etc. So this game has a lot of bits in the box. The actual physical game comes in a standard like Ticket to Ride's sized square box, and it is packed to the brim with like tiles and the dino meeples and all the other like bits that are in the game. So this is one of those games that would make a good digital game because you wouldn't have to deal with all the little bits. Not that it's not manageable. Like, I've had this set up on the table many a times, and it's a perfectly manageable game component wise, but it's jam-packed box. So
now, is this one also a fairly easy to learn game? Because I know that you all had a chance to play it on Tabletop Simulator. I was not able to be there for that one.
The game definitely has, there's several phases that you go through during the course of a turn, and you sort of have to understand what they all are before it all becomes clear. So it's one of those games where if you don't know anything about it, you should play through one turn in order to grok what's going on before you jump in.
Yeah, I think they could make a good tutorial for that game. I think it would be a great digital version.
Yeah, and tutorial could be just playing through one turn, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it'd be
it would work too.
Yeah, I think it'd be like, here's these sections, boom, boom, boom. All right, let's do a turn.
But I do hate it when they do tutorials where you have to do this specific action, and it's just waiting for you to click and do that action, and then it tells you what your next action, and it's just waiting for you to click that specific action and do that.
Yeah, I can understand why the programmers decide to do very scripted tutorials because they want to show you very specific things in a very specific order. Some amount of flexibility I would prefer, but I'm okay with the scripted tutorials because as long as they get their point across, that's fine.
Well, if they're not letting me pick the card, just play it. Like, why do I have to drag it?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I like the ones that are fairly scripted, but I like it so it gets me maybe 4 or 5 turns into the game, but it doesn't take me to the end of the game. It's like, you now understand the game. Go ahead and finish this and see if you can win. I like that. I don't want to have to go through a scripted, like an entire game scripted. I like when they get me just far enough that they're like, okay, you should understand this game now. See if you can finish it. I like a good tutorial that does that. And again, I'm with you, James. Sometimes they're like, all right, we want you to play this card, but the thing that I like about it is it's teaching me the mechanics of the game itself, where to click, how to drag. You need that for Tabletop Simulator. James needs the scripted tutorial for Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, they're not only teaching the player the game, they're also teaching the player the UI, which is important in some cases.
I was thinking in the back of my head while you guys were talking about like all the RPG games ever that have the worst tutorials on the face of the planet. Like, okay, adventurer, now look left. Adventurer, look right. Adventurer, open the treasure chest. Adventurer, can you walk to the left?
It's true.
Try walking backwards.
It is really, really true.
Now jump! Swing your sword! Yeah. In computer RPGs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yep, those tutorials can be rough.
And there's some big name ones that do it too. It's just, oh my gosh. This rage fills me whenever I start one of the games and they're like, look to your left. I'm like, oh, I'm good. Who can't do this?
You'd be surprised. There are some people.
They'll figure it out. Like, I can't walk. Let me hit buttons until I walk. I mean, really, seriously.
Yeah, you button mash enough, you'll figure it out.
Terrible way to play.
So my list was much more wishful thinking.
Yes, wishful thinking. That's what we like.
In fact, the first one on my list will probably never be there'll probably never be a digital version for exactly the reason why I want there to be a digital version. Because it's absolutely impossible to get this game. That's Glory to Rome.
I mean, that went without saying. I didn't have to talk about that game. Everyone knows that game needs another printing in some way, shape, or form.
I thought we were talking about good games.
Oh. Except that everybody knows that James wants this game so bad.
I mean, if Dan wants to get rid of it, I'll take it. Just
he'll relieve him of it.
That's a negatory.
But yeah, availability is definitely a key thing for wanting digital games. And, in some cases, it can happen. Probably not for Glory of the Rome, but there are some cases where games just are not available. And, a digital just is more feasible for the company. Of course, when it's an IP-based thing, that's a whole nother ball game.
But yeah, I'm with you. And Glory to Rome is one that would be, if the IP wasn't an issue, a fairly easy game, I would think, to adapt into a digital format. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like a lot of the card-based games are an easier choice to adapt than some of the other games out there that have a whole lot more fiddly bits to them. But I feel like a card-based game seems like it should be a no-brainer on turning it in. Now, you can go above and beyond and make some fantastic games from just card-based games. I mean, a good majority of Wingspan is card-based, but you play that digital adaptation, and they just blew that one out of the water, I think, artistically. But there are some other ones out there that I think Glory to Rome could be cool as a digital adaptation for sure, and shouldn't be that difficult, again, except for the IP issue. So wishful thinking, Nathan, I like it, because I would be on board with that one for sure. I really have enjoyed my few gameplays of Glory to Rome. I'm gonna actually kind of go off on that with you, because the first one on my list is also just a card-based game, and it's one I'm a little surprised, and again, maybe somebody knows something that I don't, but I was sure there probably was a digital version of this out there. There's a really, really well modded version on Tabletop Simulator, but I couldn't find an official digital adaptation, and that is Seven Wonders Duel, which I think would be a fairly easy game to create a digital adaptation for, and again, it kind of blew my mind that there wasn't one already. And again, you could do some really cool things, I think, with this one, because again, when I think about why I want a digital adaptation, it's because I want the immersion that can happen in the digital games. I want the music in the background. I want to, like on that one, if I build my wonder, I then want an artistically depicted wonder to build up from the card Game of Thrones intro style. I want to see some really cool art done for this digital version, and so I've really fallen in love with Seven Wonders Duel, all thanks to Nathan, I think, for telling me about that one, and I've now played it a handful of times. So, does anybody know, is it already out there?
Yes, it's made by Repos Production. It's Seven Wonders Duel app. It's already released, and I think they actually did the expansion for it too.
Okay, so it's an app. It's not on Steam. Is it an Android app? Is it a...
I believe it's on Google Play, Android, iOS, and Apple iOS.
All right, see, so I'm gonna have to check that one out, because I didn't find it, and I'm now going to have to get it, because I knew there had to be one out there somewhere. It should have been a fairly easy one to put out. Now I have to see. It's probably not going to live up to what my brain has imagined for this game, but I'll be interested to see what it looks like.
I think you might be surprised.
Yeah?
It looked really good. So.
Okay. See that now? This is awesome. I'm super excited. I had a wish, and the wish has already come true, people.
I like your wish fairy.
Right?
All right, anyway, so I guess it's my turn. So mine is a game that I think that CMON should make a digital adaptation of it, like Blood Rage, because I actually think this one is better as a digital adaptation than the physical game, and that is Rising Sun. The reason why I'm saying Rising Sun is would be much better as a digital adaptation is because the immense amount of setup and stuff you have to track during the games, because in Rising Sun, you basically gain new abilities and new monsters throughout the game at a pretty fast clip. So the amount of things you can do on your turn and the amount of effects that you can apply, it gets greater as you go. Plus, it's really hard to remember what everyone else had, remember what you have, because you have like 10 or 12 things, and remember what's in the array of stuff you can get to synergize with what you already have. So a lot, and it takes up a large amount of table space. So a lot of the game, like when we played Rising Sun, like when I had it out, I actually put the market of gods and stuff that you could get each season on a separate tray, because everyone had to keep walking around it to see what they could get, and it kept the table space a little bit more open because you had to walk around and see what other people already have. So a digital adaptation would be really nice, because you could just hover over and it'd be like, oh, okay, well, that guy has all these cards, so he's obviously trying to go this route or whatnot. So, and it's a great game. It's just a lot of work because of that. So Rising Sun. Also, they'd probably do a Kickstarter, and I'll get the mat, because I forgot to get the mat. So do it, because I want the mat for the physical game. So yes.
Dan, I think you're next in our round robin. You got another one?
Yeah, I got another one. So this is a game that I wish there was a digital version because of, I guess, turn complexity. It's not quite rules complexity, because the game is actually kind of on the simple side. The game is Lagrange, and it's a game that's mostly cards, and the cards are multi-use cards. So of course I like it. But there's like 6 to like 8 phases in a turn, and most of them are relatively small. Like, you know, you get your income and you grow your crops if you've got open spots on your fields, and potentially breed pigs during the same phase, and you collect income. I already said that. There's a central market that you can deliver goods. One of the ways you can use cards is they call it a market barrow. You deliver goods to the market. You open up a stall that can kick other people out of the market depending upon where you put it. There's 2 different like phases for doing those deliveries. So yeah, there's just like 6 or 7 things you do in a turn. And it might not be great as a digital app actually, because like it would be like, you know, I have to do a thing, then Pete has to do a thing, then James has to do a thing. We keep on going around the table like 6 different times in order to do all the things, because like each phase is done by each player. It's not like one player takes their whole turn, but like still a little bit of help with the administration of the game would probably be welcome.
So my next is a little bit more out of the box. I think is actually pretty far out of the box, but Pandemic Legacy Season 3, when it comes out, would be interesting as a digital game. The main reason I thought of that was because they are really kind of pushing the concept of everybody's game's going to be a little different, which is only nominally true in the board game, but with a digital app, they could have procedurally generated content and actually make that true for once. The other thing it does is it avoids the issue that Pandemic Legacy has, where you open a box and they have very limited space to add new rules, so the information isn't always clear. They're not always giving you all the information you need in that little bit of context. So it's very easy to make rules mistakes as new rules are added, where in a digital app, even if it doesn't explain it, it's going to be built into the thing, so you can't really screw it up as much.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get updates, and updates just, the mistake won't be there anymore.
I'm going to go out on a limb, though, and I'm going to say there will never be a Pandemic Legacy Season 3.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure I read that 0 is the last one. Now, will there be a Pandemic Legacy Alpha, Beta 9 or 10? That's something completely different. Maybe, but I think my feeling is they're done with the Pandemic Legacy line as it is. They might start a new one or something else.
Yeah, I think that I did hear something about the possibility of starting a new trilogy or something. But even further out of the box, I was thinking, it's even a better idea than that is steal an idea from Keyforge Games. Have procedurally generated physical content, which I know would be amazingly difficult to do, but
they already do that.
It'd be pretty cool.
Adventureland or whatever it was called.
Yes.
Is procedurally generated board game, and it did, as far as I understand, not well.
No.
But that is a procedurally generated board and procedurally generated story and bit.
While we're on this topic, I have to mention one more game that sort of experimented in this space, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was put out roughly the same time and by the same company as Keyforge, and it was being posted as the other unique game out there.
Yeah, it's not Adventureland, but it's the one I'm talking about.
Discovery Lands.
Discovery Lands Unknown.
Yeah, that's it.
Something like that.
That's the one. It's procedurally generated.
What do you call it? Like there's maybe like 20 different characters, but you only get like 6 in a box. And there's like 4 different terrain types, but you only get 2 in a box. And there's like 6 different storylines, but you only get 1 in a box. And so like there's all these different components that you mix and match to make up a box. So that each box is potentially unique. I mean, there's a finite number of combinations, but the finite number of combinations is rather large. So
let's get into why we think that might have failed, or at least I'll get into why I think it might have failed. The one biggest reason I think it might have failed was because it's super hard to review. You review a game, you give an expectation and that's going to be an experience that person may have. But that game, that's not true. The other thing is when you have that variability in it, and I believe I read a little bit about it, is you can lose some of the storyline might not make sense. Like, why do I have a snowman in the desert? Sort of things, if that happens too. So, I don't know. Why do you think? I mean, it could have just been a subpar game too, but do you think that the procedural generated portion of the board game was the cause for it not to be as popular as they wanted it to be?
I guess I'm going to talk a little bit more about this because I got copies of this into my store and I actually played this game 4 to 5 times, demoing it for potentially interested parties. So in my head, there were 2 issues with the game. One of them was expectation versus what was actually in the box. We expected to have this great narrative experience because it's a unique game. How could there not be a great narrative experience in this box? But the actual gameplay mechanisms that we played through was a survival game where you had to manage resources and you did have to achieve goals, but the story elements were like a couple of lines of text on a couple cards, and that was it.
So you ready for an adventure? We're going to embark on an adventure. First, warrior, collect 10 pieces of wood.
Wood was one of the resources in the game. Like you had to collect food and water because you had to eat and periodically drink because of the survival mechanism.
I think from what I've heard, I haven't actually played this game, but from what I've heard, they procedurally generated the wrong elements. They generated some of the big elements like the terrain and some of the characters. Those are not the right things to be focused on for the procedurally generated. Those you want to craft and make those nice, which meant that, not every copy was as good as another copy, so it just left a lot of people feeling they got gypped. They got a worse version of the game. Even if they got one of the better ones, they still wonder whether they got the worst version or whether they even got the whole game because, this other game has this and this mine doesn't or whatever.
That brings up a good point. Are you going to spend $50 on a randomly generated game?
Okay, so it wasn't randomly generated, right? It's procedurally generated, right? So part of the box was that, say there's a character that has a mountaineer. I don't know if that's actually true, that has a special ability in the mountains. That character would not appear unless mountains was one of the 2 terrain types in the box. So they did do some at least minimal checking on that level.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know what you got in the box until you got it, though, too.
That is correct.
Right. So a lot of it may have been just hearsays. Like people think, people here say, I really like this game with these 2 terrains. And then another person says, I didn't like it so much with these 2 terrains. It may have been just personal taste. They may have been just as good. But, that gets the impression that then every time somebody pulls out, anytime that somebody who heard those reviews pulls out their copy and find out they got the 2 terrains that the person didn't like, they're automatically going into a negative view. But yeah, I mean, so I think for procedurally generated elements, it has to be the background elements, maybe a little bit of the story, but it can't be like the core front elements. Those have to be really kind of honed and perfect.
I am certainly not going to discount procedurally generated content in physical board games or digital board games anytime in the future. If somebody makes another attempt at this, I will definitely look at it curiouser, but I'm not going to jump into it like I did with Discover Lands Unknown and buy like several copies from the store and try to demo it to multiple people, because I did do that for Discover, and it didn't go over well with any of the groups I play tested because of that disjointed perspective of this game is called Discover Lands Unknown, and I don't know what's in this box because all of these games are unique. And then here we are just doing this like survival mechanism, and it doesn't deliver on that promise.
I'm sure there'll be a few more people doing this, and that the tech behind it will slowly grow and get more sophisticated, and eventually we'll get a really good game that's procedurally generated.
Maybe. I haven't seen anyone else do it. And the problem comes is it's a big risk. So I don't know that you're going to find too many more procedurally generated games, at least for a while.
So to jump back to the topic of the podcast, digital adaptations of board games, one that I think, again, would be a very easy one to do, especially since you've got another game out there that I think does at least a good portion of what you would need to do to make it happen. Going off of the scheme that Blood Rage Digital Edition has done, I would like to see a similar adaptation of the Dune board game, where you have a game that has a little bit of area control to it. There's some dudes on a map with it. There's also cards that are being played same way that not the exact same way, but that like they are in Blood Rage. I feel like it would be not too difficult of a game to adapt, and it's a very well-known IP. I think it could probably do rather well just because it's a name that is known. So I know there's a lot of games out there that I feel like probably don't stand as much of a chance at getting this because they're just not as well known out there. But I know with Gale Force 9 re-implementing the Dune board game and doing a good job of it, they had a pretty decent launch from what I could tell anyways. I don't know, you guys know the industry better than I do, but it seemed like it was very well received. I feel like it would be easy to do. I don't know.
I wouldn't underestimate the licensing overhead that's required.
Yeah,
anything that has to do with Dune. So
no, this is, again, we're just dreaming. James has to bring everything back down. We know he's the downer of the podcast. We all know that. But I think it's with what they would need to do for it. It's doable, and I think it could be really well received. I think it could be good. Whether it would ever happen, who knows?
Well, I think there's some hope there, because they're definitely being more open with the license than they used to be. I mean, there's several games out now, all of a sudden, to the point where it can be confusing when you refer to Dune, because you have to clarify which game you're talking about, and there's another one coming yet.
Right, yeah, so definitely not, yeah, I'm definitely talking about the Dune that was reinstituted by Gale Force 9, not Dune Imperium, which is an amazing game.
And for future listeners, he's not referring to the Portal Games Dune either.
Is there another Dune Imperium one?
There's another Dune coming from Portal Games eventually.
Oh, okay.
Dune.
Dune Square.
Though, to be honest, I think Dune Imperium would also make a pretty good digital app.
No!
I think I know, like this. I wanted to say yes, but at the same time, I'm still dying to play my physical copy that I now have.
Yeah,
that's not my pick.
I opened my Dune Imperium.
Yep.
Well, I have to say that whoever modded that Dune Imperium on Tabletop Simulator did a phenomenal job. I mean, there's still some glitches in it, but it is almost a full digital game.
All right, the next Dune game is called Dune House Secrets.
Oh, okay. Dune House Secrets. All right. Does anyone else have more games that you would love to see digital adaptations of?
I just want to speak of this real quick.
Oh.
It is 2 to 3 hour play, and it looks like a scenario-based game. It looks like almost a campaign.
Ooh.
I don't know, man. I got enough campaign games.
I was gonna say it's quite left field of the rest of the Dune games right now, for sure. It's definitely something different for that, but I don't know. I still haven't really played a ton of the campaign board games. I've played all the way through Patrol Legacy. I think that's about it.
And Portal Games definitely has a mixed record with me. Well, I think many people would agree on that, actually.
That's where Rodney Smith Watch It Play It really helps.
Oh yeah, their rulebooks are terrible. You need a video.
Well, we just lost a sponsor. Not that we had them as a sponsor.
It's all right. Editing.
It's
you
all
can
right,
edit it all out.
No, I'm leaving it in there. I've already mentioned multiple times his rulebooks are awful.
Gotcha.
Well, he was won awards for how bad his rulebooks are.
So he's well aware how bad his rulebooks are.
Oh, okay.
I swear, I didn't back the because I already have it, Robinson Crusoe Kickstarter, but he has to make that rulebook good this time. That's like the third time.
All right, I've got one more. I'll put this out there for you guys to chip at, because I'm going to cheat, of course.
Of course, you got to cheat at least once.
So one of the games I think would do better as a fully digital implementation is a game called Forgotten Waters. Now, Forgotten Waters already has a digital companion app to play the physical board game version. Now, the app does several things, like you type in a number and it will read paragraphs. So it takes the place of the paragraph book in this narrative. It's like a pirate adventure, right? And I think there's 4 or 6 stories in the base game box, but like a fully digital app would allow you to, reveal information at the right time to all players instead of just like turning a page in the book to place your workers on, because worker placement is one of the major mechanics. The only thing that I feel like that game would lose by going fully digital is that periodically in the game, it asks you to like make a test, and you make a test by rolling a die and like adding a skill value. But like there's a certain physicality that to rolling dice that's really kind of cool for some people. So that's like the only thing it would lose.
Yeah, the game pretty much already is almost all digital. I mean, you're just physically moving that ship around. You're like,
a large part of it is already digital, which is why I said I was going to cheat with it, because like the game's at least half digital, even out of the physical board game box. So I think it could be taken all the way, and it would not suffer horribly for it.
So I like that game so much, I laminated all the player cards.
Really?
I did not know you had that.
Yeah, I ended up laminating every single player, because in the game, each player sheet has a unique story that you fill out.
Really, like all like 40 of them, or?
There's a lot. I was sitting there at the laminator for a really long time, I tell you. But they're all laminated except for one that we played the game the first time around, and one of my daughters used pen. That is no longer a daughter. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, but that hurts.
But I think that the crossword mechanics, like it's the same one that did Dead of Winter. I think it works better in Forgotten Waters because it takes the characters that you select into account for the crossroads that it pulls. So it makes more sense, where in Dead of Winter, you can go an entire game where you just only have 1 or 2 events trigger.
Well, I have another like genre of games that I would like to make into digital versions. Basically, any game, when you get the game out, you have to haul 10 boxes upstairs to the table. Dominion would be one of them. I think they have made one.
There is a digital app of Dominion.
Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. I don't play it ever because I have 6 boxes for that game just to play the base game.
Nathan's just pushing to be able to whittle down his actual physical collection by getting the digital version now.
Oh, that's not happening. My collection is just keeps growing.
He's like, no, I'm only going to play the digital version, but I'm keeping the physical version pristine.
Yep.
So are there other games that are like that?
Onk's like that, but I'm going to enjoy having 8 boxes of Onk and a giant play mat.
You better. You haven't even gotten it yet.
And you guys won't even be at the game night, and I'll be playing with the little figures being like, yeah.
Cosmic Encounter is starting to get that way. If you get all the expansions, they won't fit in the box anymore. You have to have multiple boxes for that. But
again, I thought we were talking about good games.
Hey, that is an excellent game.
Oh, no. No kidding.
Boot you from the... Peter, did you have any other ones you wanted to mention?
Yeah, so I had one more that I was going to throw out there. Everybody knows that I like it. I think, again, because I like the immersiveness that a digital game can bring, again, with the different levels of art that can be thrown in there, the bringing the world to life in a way that just the board game doesn't always do. I would, there's a lot of big games, campaign-style games out there. I wouldn't mind seeing a betrayal-style game that is a digital adaptation, just because there's a lot of different, with all the different scenarios that could possibly happen. Music overlaid here, a very kind of B horror film feel. I think it could be fun. So as much as I personally still like playing the board game whenever I get the chance to. The other thing with getting a digital adaptation is that I would have more opportunity to play it with other people. I've got a lot of friends. Not everybody likes Betrayal, and that's okay. it's a game that I like and I don't force it on other people, but those people out there who do like it and would like it enough to jump on a digital game with me, I would love the opportunity to do that. So that's another thing that I like about digital adaptations is I've played games with people I will never have the opportunity to sit down across a table from them. They live in another country, they live in another state far away. Digital adaptations give me an opportunity to play games with the people who love the games as much as I do, even when I might not have a friend nearby who likes it. So I think that's another good, at least reason for me to want to see digital adaptations of some of these games. So that was the last one that I wanted to throw out there. Just for my own personal sake, I want to play it more. So give me the chance to play it with more people, and give me the immersiveness that can come with, I think, a digital adaptation.
I think that Betrayal House on the Hill has a DLC for Tabletop Simulator.
It does. That is true. I haven't actually played with it, so I don't know if it's very well done or not. But I believe that it has one.
But I mean, like, it's sort of like doesn't matter. I'm going to be the heckler, apparently, at this point, because I ran out of games. I'm just going to heckle you people.
Everybody, this is the same podcast that we always have. We all talk about things that we really like. James heckles.
Yes.
James makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to just say, Mansions of Madness.
Absolutely. It was another one that I thought about talking about, but I thought you were going to talk about, so I'm glad you did.
Yeah. If they make, Mansions of Madness already beats Betrayal House on the Hill.
I totally agree that it does.
No, you're not supposed to agree.
I know, because it makes you mad.
I know. I don't even know what to do now.
I mean, Mansions of Madness is another game that has like a digital app companion.
Right.
So I think it's another game that could be taken all the way digital and probably not lose too much. Matter of fact, you'd probably gain a lot because you'd no longer have to fish through multiple boxes for tiles or monster tokens or, minis, right? In that case.
Well, the more expansions you get, the worse it gets.
The more expansions you get, the worse it gets.
See, and this is the, I don't know if James, I don't know if you would like this. So in my imagination of this Betrayal and or Mansions of Madness adaptation, like the house is 3D and you actually have your characters walk through a door into the next room and you get surprised by what's in there. Like, I think the visual that creates for me, like this very mix of board game and video game digital adaptation, I think could be really, really interesting. Just sitting there with your headphones on, hearing the eerie Cthulhu-ish music that could be in there, I think would be really, really fantastic. Dreaming big.
I don't think either of those are a great choice myself, because...
It's because you're wrong, and that's okay.
You're wrong. It's okay. It's okay. You're allowed to be wrong.
So a big part of both of those games is the reactions. And when you're gonna stab somebody in the back, you want to see their face. Wait, that doesn't work.
You want to see their face as you're stabbing them in the back. The metaphorical part is the stabbing.
No, it's the other way around. But no, unless the digital version has webcam functionality, I think I would still always play the physical game with those type of games.
So you want to see just the absolute dread that comes over their face when you reveal that you've been working against them the whole time? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm gonna have to agree with Nathan. That needs to be a part of like every semi-co-op / hidden trader game is the ability to reveal yourself as the hidden trader and be like,
I know.
And when you reveal, you have a button you can press that immediately like screen captures everybody's face, so you have it in perpetuity.
And you have to do your evil monologue.
I think that it brings up the good point is like the major component that's required for a board game is people. And when you do the digital version, you lose the people. You might be able to hear them, but you can't see them. And human beings are a big social being, even if you don't want to be. In order to be able to tell a lot of how a person's acting, you have to see their face or their body language. And that is gone from a video game. Or you have a lot of them don't have voice chat channels, so you can't even hear the inflection in their voice. You can't tell if they're quaking in fear because you're putting their Death Star are too close to their planet. So a lot's lost. So you can get to the point where it's just a video game at that point. It's not really a board game anymore.
Yeah, for the vast majority of digital games, you don't see the other players. You simply see the results of their moves, right?
Yeah.
And, for games like Mansions of Madness and even Gloomhaven, it might as well be a solo game at that point.
Which, oddly enough, they both can be. But, yeah, that just gets into games, like highly thematic games are best with real people. But, if you can't get real people, it's nice to have the digital ones around. So there's a little catch-22 there.
Well, talking about not being able to get real people, that's the last one I wanted to talk about was, just large group games like Twilight Imperium, where I can't get...
No, you don't go there.
Oh no, he already did.
I can't play this because I can't get 7 people in my house. I just can't gather that group. Also, in theory, you could break it up into a couple different game days. Or, you can do 2 hours and do a break and then 2 hours.
James is super happy right now, everybody. James is loving this idea.
I mean, Nathan does have a point here. This past year has seen an increasing popularity in, like, Zoomable, for lack of a better term, party games, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm sold. The more opportunity, and I get it. I get what James is saying. Having you get board games are people. I mean, it's in our motto. It's in our tagline for the podcast. The memories that playing games with people, with friends and families can create. That is what board games are. But at the same time, I want to be able to play games more often. So the more ways you give me the chance to play the game, I want it. So give me the huge budget digital adaptation that I want. Come on, everybody, and get this stupid virus over with so that we can all get back together and physically play games as well. I want the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So while we're stuck at home, great. After we're stuck at home, Peter will be coming over to get his butt whooped in multiple board games.
I will. And when I come home, I'm still going to play digital adaptations of games.
No one's perfect.
That's right. Yeah. I can't live there and play games all the time. So I will continue to play my games.
I will say that when I play digital adaptations of board games, I don't play with people.
Really? You mostly just play against the AI, the bots? Okay.
And I just try to get a better score every time. Because I haven't found a digital adaptation with bots that I can't crush unless they cheat.
I have. I found plenty. Bots killed me all the time.
But, I mean, yeah, most of the time I don't play with people. I just play the bots.
So what is happening? You're just afraid to play real people, and because you're afraid you'll get beat. That's why you want to play easy AI.
I don't like playing digital games other than with you guys, with random people. It's like, I'd rather play with people I know or can see. So, yeah.
Yeah, the few digital games that I've played have mostly been against AI opponents as well. And that's just because it's convenience factor. Like, I'm ready to play a game now. If I went looking for an opponent, like on my friends list, I probably wouldn't be able to find one when I'm ready. It's that whole scheduling thing. D&D, right? Peter,
absolutely.
You know how hard it is to hoard character players into the same space-time?
Yes.
It's like herding cats sometimes.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst until you make it work. Thank you for listening. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to visit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Board Game Geek Guild 2989, or our website at tabletopgamingguild.com. Don't forget to like, follow, and or subscribe. Tabletop Gaming Guild is a product of Tabletop Gaming Guild LLC. All rights reserved.